Closer. Hi, welcome back to Embracing Your Greatness. This is Christina King, and I am at the shrine of Our Lady of Good Help in Champion, Wisconsin. And the story of Sister Adele Brise is the message for today. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I've got Father Peter Stryker here right with me, and in the back behind me there is an image of Sister Adele Brise, and we're going to be talking about her. Welcome to Embracing Your Greatness, Father.
Thank you, Christine. It's good to be here with you, here at the shrine.
Yes, I'm hoping we're not getting kickback from two different phones. So, if so, we'll have to have my producer will have to send me a text message or something like that. Because I was just thinking, as we're looking at each other, we might be getting feedback from each other's phone over the radio line.
Maybe so. You just tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
Okay. Well, why don't you hang up on your phone, and I think we'll use mine on speakerphone. That way, we make sure we get a nice, clean feed to the studio. So why don't you check that out? Okay. And for those of you that are still with me, we're going to continue. We're going to continue with the show here. Yeah.
What's going on over there?
Sorry about that. We're ready to go.
Okay.
Who's putting us back on? All right, sorry about that. A little technical difficulty there. We're still I'm still trying to get used to all this modern technology. So we have with me here today Father Peter Stryker, and he's going to be telling us a little bit more about this great story at the shrine. Welcome to Embracing Your Greatness.
Thank you, Christine. It's good to be here with you, and you've picked a wonderful topic for your show today.
I sure have. There's probably a lot of people out there that are going to come across this video that have no idea anything about this shrine. So other than me saying that this is the first Marian apparition site and shrine in the United States of America, can you please help my audience, before we get into who Sister Adele was and this beautiful message about teaching the faith and how that ties into the Holy Father, what is the miracle of this place? What is the story of why there's a shrine built here in the first place? Can you take us through that?
Okay, Adele Brise grew up in Belgium, and her family learned that here in the United States there was now the possibility of moving to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin had declared statehood in 1848, and throughout the 50s there was a huge movement of immigration to Wisconsin, and Adele's family was part of that. Now, when Adele was still in Belgium, as a young girl, she had intended, along with some of her friends, to enter a convent there, and they wanted to be missionary sisters. And so when Adele learned that her family wanted her to move to the United States, to Wisconsin, she didn't like that. She went to a priest, and he advised her to be obedient to her parents, and so she was.
I want to stop there for 1 minute, because I think that's one of the things that we're sorely lacking. It's the very first thing that caused the whole fall of the Lucifer in the first place,
right.
And then it just keeps continuing, and we see even that right now with that controversy. You've got the difference between Father Crappy and Father Pavone is what's beautiful about the Father Pavone thing is this beautiful obedience and I keep feeling like it's very important to be obedient.
There you go. That's right.
And that obedience is one of the most important aspects of living the Catholic faith, wouldn't you say?
I think so. I think it's we see that in the lives of the saints. We see that in the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and the supreme example that we have is Jesus going to the cross in loving obedience to his Father, suffering and dying for all of us, for all of our sins, right down through the end of time. And so obedience, loving obedience is really crucial in living out the Catholic Christian life. Okay,
so the other part that I think is extremely important. So she's become a sister, and she's called to this area in some kind of missionary. What was the catalyst? Tell our audience about the Great Fire of Peshtigo. Help our audience understand why this miracle is such a huge and big deal.
Well, there was a huge fire in north Wisconsin, and it was at the time of the Chicago fire. Well, this fire in Wisconsin was going on for weeks and months, and people would
keep going.
Okay, people would live in fear that this fire would approach their home, and that their livelihood would be destroyed. And so the people who were living in the area around Champion, Wisconsin, were part of that fear of the Peshtigo fire. And the fire, when it came with hurricane strength back in 1871, the chapel grounds and the buildings were miraculously left virtually untouched by the hurricane of fire and devastation of that great Peshtigo fire. And so the people had gathered together at the chapel here on the grounds of the shrine, and all of the people who gathered here at the chapel and prayed all night to be delivered from the destruction of this fire were saved. And during the night, during their vigil of prayer throughout the night, suddenly a rain came, and the rain put out the fire. And when they went out in the morning, the shrine property, the 6 acres of shrine property that we have here, were just an oasis of green. Everything beyond the shrine property was charred by the fire. It was truly a miracle, preserving not only the property but also the lives of those who gathered here on the shrine property.
So we have not only just the miracle occurring here at the Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help, but you also have a message. Now, I know that these kinds of things came later, but share 2 things. I want to talk a little bit about what has come here of the shrine, what the mission of the shrine is going to be, but give us a little bit about the words she actually spoke to Sister Adele, and how Sister Adele came to understand Our Lady's vision for this place.
Okay, Our Lady had appeared to Adele a couple times silently, and after that second silent apparition, Adele again went to her priest asking for advice, and the priest told her that if this is truly a messenger from heaven, just say, "Who are you and what do you want of me?" And that's exactly what Adele did later in the day when Our Lady appeared to her again. And Mary revealed herself in this way. She said, "I am the Queen of Heaven. You gather the children in this wild country and teach them what they should know for salvation. Teach them their catechism, how to sign themselves with the sign of the cross, and how to approach the sacraments. This is what I wish you to do. Go in fear nothing. I will help you." And that's why we give this Lady from Heaven, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Queen of Heaven, the title, Our Lady of Good Help.
Oh, that's such a beautiful story, and I have to say that there's a couple things that strike me about the message that Our Lady spoke to Sister Adele. Number one, well, she's called herself the Queen of Heaven, and I know that that is the title that we, the Church, have given her. But I think it's beautiful that she's saying, well, you brought it up to me too, this wild country. What do you think that Our Lady was talking about when she said this wild country?
Well, just physically. It was a place where people were setting up their homesteads. People were spending huge amounts of time clearing land, and but in the midst of all of that, people were losing their faith. And if they didn't lose their faith completely, the faith was getting distorted. And so it was a situation that was ripe for apostasy or heresy, many dangers to the faith. And so spiritually, it was kind of a wild situation.
Well, I feel like I'm getting this discernment right now as I'm listening to you speak, of just kind of making the extrapolations, how we once again we've entered into a time of distraction. They had the distraction of the weaknesses and the troubles and the trials of family life and daily life, and trying to clear the land and wondering if they were going to be able to provide for their kids. But we have the distraction now of the rat race, of trying to make more and more money and technology and all of these things. And so I see how we are made for order, and when we don't have that rootedness in our faith, we can become very disordered with our natural tendencies to kind of go off in whatever directions, to numb ourselves or to bring pleasure in our lives instead of thinking about the ultimate goal, which should be for union and communion with God, and to give ourselves as gifts to others. Because ultimately, you know, all the money in the world won't make us happy if we don't enter into what it means to love, because we were created for love. So unless we're finding a way to enter into that call to love, we're never really truly going to be happy. And it's like God was recognizing, hey, these people are getting way over focused on you know, not understanding how beautiful suffering can be. You know, they're clearing the land, but unless they realize why they're doing these things, they're going to lose their faith.
Exactly. They needed to, the parents needed help in order to teach their children the faith. And Adele was given that beautiful mission, and at first she fulfilled it by herself, going to visit all of these families, and she would go to them and offer to do housework in exchange for the privilege of teaching their children their catechism and all the other things that Our Lady mentions. Eventually the work became overwhelming, and by that time people were convinced that Adele was a person to trust, and so they helped her to set up a school.
I'm struck by how people that are given a mission, they very much realize you have to bring truth in a language people can receive. So like Our Lady of Guadalupe, any of my listeners know I have this great love and devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady came and appeared and spoke a language that the Nahuatl Indians could speak by having the actual image on the tilma that they recognized as something, a garment that all lay people wore, that the actual images all meant something and spoke a language and was like a poor man's catechism, like iconography, and taught the faith. So now you have a woman who realizes the great suffering is that they are really struggling with all of their work. So if I want to speak a language they can receive, I'm going to come and be a solution and an offer of hope, joy, by bearing their burdens with them. And that was a language they could say, okay, now I'll listen. I just think that's beautiful that she recognized.
That's right. That is right. That Adele really was in sync with what it took to connect with these parents in order to help them to teach their children the faith. Yeah.
And so she entered into their daily difficulties. She got them convinced, okay, yes, we need to be doing this. And you were saying one of the things she said was, Our Lady said, teach them the sign of the cross. And I was saying to you before the show, I think it reminds me of theology of the body, how we're not just a body, we're not just a soul, that we are body and soul, and all of the sacraments are these external, physical, tangible, body expressions that are the outward sign of the inward infusion of grace to our soul, because we are both. So when you eat and drink, we need to eat to live. Well, so does our soul, so we receive it through our bodies, so that grace can. And I was thinking, that sign of the cross is like a theology of the body, isn't it? Like an outward expression of what you proclaim in your soul as your belief, isn't it?
It is a very central mystery of our Catholic faith, that we're able to make the sign of the cross and to believe, in doing that. We're making the very sign of Jesus' loving obedience to His Father, going to the cross for our salvation. And so whenever we look upon a crucifix, whenever we make the sign of the cross on our bodies, we are proclaiming God's great love for us, for sure. And you're right, Pope Blessed John Paul II told us that we are incarnate spirits. We're like angels with bodies, and we have to keep that in mind, that we're a body, we are body and soul. And so in living out our Catholic faith, learning it, living out, we have to remember that and to feed both body and soul.
That's right. How beautiful. You've got all these inherent messages, and even her go and fear nothing, I will help you. The go and fear nothing reminds me of Blessed Pope John Paul saying, be not afraid.
Be not afraid, that's
right. It
right.
reminds me of Our Lady of Guadalupe saying that, don't be afraid, are you not in the crossing of my arms? Am I not your mother? And it just reminds me of relationship. God is a relationship of three persons and desires that with us. Stay tuned with me and Father Peter Stryker to talk more about the Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help in Champion, Wisconsin. We'll be right back on Embracing Your Greatness.
Okay.